I don't know if anyone can hear me, but if this broadcast reaches even one person out there, hold on a little longer. This is James Foster on 104.7 FM, and I'm speaking from what's left of Cincinnati. It's cold tonight. Not the kind of cold you feel on your skin, but the kind that makes the air feel heavier, like the world is tired. The backup generator has been running for 14 hours straight. I can smell the burnt diesel on my jacket, and the light in this room keeps flickering in that slow, lazy way that tells me it's about to die. I keep telling myself it'll last another hour. I don't know if that's hope or denial. Maybe both. Outside the windows, the city is so quiet it hurts. No cars, no trains, no late-night bars buzzing with people. Just the wind dragging dust across the empty streets. I can see the sky where it's not supposed to be seen, wide open between broken buildings and dead traffic lights, and the strange orange haze that's been sitting over the river since yesterday still hasn't moved. It makes the air look sick. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in the last hour, though the weather app on my phone died days ago, so I'm going by my bones. They've stopped lying to me. I've been trying to figure out where to begin. Maybe with the first moment I knew something was wrong. Maybe with the way everything felt slightly off last week, even though nobody wanted to admit it. Or maybe with the fact that none of us saw it coming, even though the signs were right in front of us. I guess I should start with the moment it stopped feeling normal. It was 3 days ago. No, 4 now, I think. I woke up early, before sunrise. My phone kept buzzing with missed alerts that didn't have words in them, just blank gray boxes. I thought it was a glitch. Everyone thought it was a glitch. But then my neighbor, Mrs. Carver, knocked on my door in her slippers. She's usually calm, the type who talks to stray cats and brings cookies to people she barely knows. But she looked pale and kept checking the street behind her like someone was following. She asked if my lights were flickering too. I said yes. She asked if I heard that low humming sound in the distance. I didn't. But later, after she left, I did. It sounded like a generator somewhere underground, or like something huge turning slowly beneath the earth. Deep, faint, steady. Too steady. Later that morning, my friend Marcus, he used to work in city maintenance, called me and said he'd been asked to come in early because the monitoring equipment for the power grid was reading strange surges across the whole region. He didn't want to go. He said something felt wrong, but he went anyway. That was the last normal conversation I had before everything broke. Around 9 a.m., the first outages hit. Not the usual blackouts where the power dips and comes back. These hit like a hammer, street by street, block by block. People ran outside thinking a transformer exploded. The sky looked normal. Everything looked normal. But every single electronic device stopped working at the same time, like someone flipped a switch. Cars froze in place. People stuck inside elevators screamed for help. And the air changed, like all the static in the world just vanished. I remember standing in the street, looking around with 1,000 other confused faces. People talked at first. They joked. They asked each other if this was some cyber attack or a shutdown or something political. But then someone shouted that the hospital backup generators weren't turning on. That's when the panic started. You don't realize how quickly fear spreads until you see people go from confused to terrified in the space of 5 minutes. I ran back to my apartment and grabbed my old manual radio, the crank-powered one my dad gave me years ago. He used to say, "Digital dies, metal stays alive." I laughed at him then. I'm not laughing now. That radio got the emergency band working when nothing else did. And that's how I first heard the message telling people to stay indoors, conserve water, and wait for updates. The man on the broadcast sounded scared, You can hear that if you've been in radio long enough. His voice was thin around the edges. I guess I should explain why I'm still on air. This station used to run a smaller frequency next to the main one. Nobody used it except for training interns. Its equipment is old, mostly analog with simple wiring, heavy metal knobs, thick cables, nothing that burns out easily. When the main power went, all the fancy systems died in an instant, but the backup gear in this side room didn't. The generators kept it going. I dragged everything together and wired it by hand until these mics came alive. That was about 12 hours after the collapse started. I keep thinking about the last time I talked to Marcus. He called around noon that day. His voice shook. He said the power surges weren't just surges. Something was overriding the entire grid, forcing voltage up and down faster than the system could adjust. He said they never taught them about anything that could behave like that. It didn't match any natural event. It didn't match any type of attack. Then the line went dead, mid-sentence. I tried calling him back, but the networks were already gone. By 5 p.m., the city was turning dark, even though the sun was still out. People gathered in groups, some calm, some panicking, some yelling about government secrets, others praying loudly on street corners. Someone lit a fire in a trash can that turned into a car fire, which turned into a small street fire. Nobody came to put it out. The fire department was quiet. The police radios were silent too. I heard one officer talking to another as they walked past the station. He said every communication line had gone dark, including their dispatch. His partner said something about seeing helicopters grounded across the river, just sitting there like dead insects. I know I'm talking a lot, but I need to. It feels like if I stop talking, this room will swallow me whole. The generator noise keeps getting softer, like it's losing strength. I keep checking the fuel levels. It should last a few more hours if I'm careful. You might be wondering about the event itself. What actually caused this? I wish I could tell you. I've heard theories whispered in stairwells and alleyways, the kind people say with shaking hands. Some say it was a solar flare, but the experts always said flares don't shut down everything at once, not like this. Some say it was a cyber attack from another country, but that doesn't explain why manual car engines died or why old radios burned out. Some think it was something underground, a vibration, a frequency. Something the city picked up first. Yesterday, before the full blackout hit, a man came by the station. He used to work in a private research lab outside the city, Edgewater Systems. I've never heard of it. He didn't give me his name. He looked exhausted, like he ran here. He told me their sensors picked up something under the crust. Nobody knew what. A pulse. Not heat, not movement. A signal. It moved across the continent in under 4 minutes. He said they tried contacting Washington, but all lines were already down. He kept repeating the same sentence. We woke something up. I asked him what he meant. He shook his head and left. I haven't seen him since. I don't know if he was telling the truth or if fear made him imagine things. People are seeing shadows in everything now. But I keep thinking about that low humming sound we all heard 4 days ago. I haven't heard it since the collapse. Maybe it stopped. Or maybe everything else got louder. The city is falling apart faster than anyone imagined. Water pressure is dropping. People are boiling snow, even though there isn't much left. Food from stores ran out yesterday morning. Some streets still smell like smoke from the fires. A few groups tried organizing supplies, but without communication or power, nothing stays organized for long. People get scared. They turn on each other. I watched a man steal a box of crackers from a little girl. Her mother screamed and chased him down the street until he disappeared around a corner. I didn't know what to do. None of us did. A few hours ago, I walked outside for the first time today. The sky looked wrong. Part of it was tinted red. Not bright, more like a bruise. Dust covered the parked cars in a thick layer, even though we haven't had windstorms. Something's stirring up debris from far away. You can taste the grit when you breathe. My throat feels raw. I know this all sounds like rambling, but I'm trying to paint the picture honestly, the way things look from here. If the world is listening, or whatever's left of it, I want people to know what it feels like tonight. Cold, quiet, heavy. Like someone pressed pause on everything that made this city alive. I'm tired, but I can't stop. Not yet. Earlier this evening, a small group moved past the station toward the river. They carried bags and blankets and pieces of metal for, I don't know, maybe protection. One of them told me they were heading for the old ferry docks because someone claimed boats still work. That doesn't make sense to me, but people grab onto any hope they can find. A man holding a rope told me if the engines don't work, they'll paddle. He smiled when he said it, like he was forcing himself to believe it. There's a weight in my chest tonight. I think it's fear, but also something else. Something like guilt. Because I can speak. I can reach people. And most people can't reach anyone anymore. Maybe that's why I keep talking, even when my throat feels tight. Maybe it's the only way to feel like I'm still part of something. I need to explain what happened about an hour before I came on air. There was a second pulse, not like the first one that took everything down. This one felt different, softer, more like a wave of pressure rolling through the ground. The shelves in this room rattled. The concrete outside cracked a little more. The windows buzzed for 2 or 3 seconds, then went still. I looked outside and saw birds flying in crooked patterns, like they were drunk. A few crashed into the road. I don't know what's happening to them. And there's something else. Something I haven't wanted to say yet, because I wanted to convince myself I imagined it. But I didn't. I saw it again 10 minutes ago. There's a glow near the river. Not fire, not lights. Something pale and flickering, like heat rising off asphalt. But the shape stays still, and it keeps pulsing. People walk near it, and then walk away fast, like they can feel something coming off of it. I don't know what that means. I don't know what anything means anymore. But I promised myself I wouldn't lie on this frequency, not when people need truth more than comfort. The truth is that the world is falling apart, and none of us understand why. The truth is that I'm scared, and tired, and cold, and every hour feels longer than the last. But the truth is also that I'm not giving up. Not yet. I'm going to keep talking until this generator dies, or my voice does. If you're out there, keep listening. Even if my words can't fix anything, maybe they can remind you that someone somewhere is still holding on. I keep losing track of time in this room. The clock on the wall died sometime after sunset, and I've been glancing at it every few minutes like a reflex, even though I know it won't tell me anything. It's strange how your brain still tries to follow old routines when the world around you stops working. I keep wanting to check my phone too, even though it's nothing but a dead rectangle now. I used to scroll through it without thinking. Now it just sits on the desk, covered in dust, staring at me like it's confused about what happened to its purpose. I guess I'm confused about mine too. The generator is louder than before. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Maybe it's working harder. Maybe it's shaking itself apart. But the lights haven't gone out yet, so I'll take what I can get. The air in here feels warmer than outside, even though I turned off the space heater to save power. Maybe it's just the stress heating my blood, or maybe it's the dust coming in through the broken seal on the window. I taped it earlier, but the tape keeps peeling. I can hear faint noises outside every now and then. Not voices, not engines, just things moving. Could be wind blowing trash, could be animals looking for food, could be people trying not to be heard. The city feels like a giant house everyone ran out of at the same time, but a few shadows stayed behind and keep shifting through the halls. I haven't talked about what happened on the second night yet, the night after the main collapse. I've been putting it off because every time I think about it, my stomach tightens. But I should say it. If someone finds these recordings later, they should know how fast everything slipped. That night, around midnight, a group of men went through the streets smashing windows. They weren't stealing anything big, just food, batteries, blankets, anything they could carry. But one of them had a metal pipe and kept hitting car doors even though the alarms couldn't go off. The sound of metal on metal echoed through the blocks like a warning. I watched them from the window upstairs. They didn't look angry. They looked desperate. Their faces were tight, and their eyes flicked everywhere, like they expected something to come after them. I wondered if they knew something the rest of us didn't. They kept shouting at each other about a roadblock near the interstate. Something about soldiers telling people to stay inside and then disappearing. I couldn't hear much from up here, but the fear in their voices carried far. And then I saw something I still can't explain. As they walked past the end of the streetlights, dead since the first outage, flashed for a split second. Just one flicker, bright enough to see their shadows stretch across the pavement. The men froze. They turned slowly, like animals caught in something's gaze. Then the light died again, and everything went black. One of them dropped his bag and ran. The others ran after him. They didn't say a word, just ran. I kept watching the spot where the light had flashed, waiting to see if it would happen again. But it didn't. I've been thinking about that moment ever since. What kind of system can send a pulse through dead wires? What kind of force can wake up a broken grid for a heartbeat and then vanish again? It made me wonder if the power failure wasn't just a failure. Maybe something else grabbed hold of the grid for a moment. Something that didn't need wires the same way we do. I keep telling myself not to think like that, but when a whole city goes silent, your thoughts fill the empty spaces with things you never believed in. Earlier today, I walked past the corner store where I used to buy my morning coffee. The windows are broken now. The owner, Mr. Lang, used to stand behind the counter reading the newspaper and pretending he wasn't watching people too closely. He was tough but kind in that quiet way older men get. I saw him sitting on the floor behind the counter, leaning against a shelf like he was resting. But he wasn't moving. His hands were curled by his chest like he was trying to hold something in. His face was peaceful, though. That's the part I can't shake. Nobody around him had touched him. No signs of struggle. No signs of sickness. Just a man who looked like he closed his eyes for a moment and didn't open them again. Things like that are happening everywhere. People collapsing in their homes, on sidewalks, in stairwells. No wounds, no explanations. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's hunger. Maybe it's something else moving through the air, invisible and patient. Some people have started leaving the city. Not in cars. Those are useless now. They're walking in groups, carrying backpacks, blankets, even mattresses tied with rope. They say they're heading north because someone heard there's power in Michigan. Others say to head south because there's military aid near Kentucky. Others say there's nothing anywhere, and the smartest thing is to find a place to hide until things settle. But nothing feels like it's settling. Everything feels like it's building. I found a notebook in the back office earlier. It belonged to the old station manager. Most of the pages were blank, but one page near the middle had a scribbled note dated 2 days before the collapse. It said, "Strange interference during late-night scans. Low-range pulse affecting analog monitors. Keep this quiet." I don't know what that means, but it makes me wonder if someone here knew something was coming. I keep circling back to that man from the research lab, the one who told me something underground sent a signal across the continent. I didn't believe him at first, but now, the ground feels wrong. When I walked outside earlier, my steps felt like they sank half an inch more than usual, like the dirt under the pavement wasn't packed right, like something had shifted. Maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I'm tired, but I don't think so. People talk about the silence, the weird heaviness in the air, the strange colors near the river. I can't tell if these things are connected or if they're just symptoms of a world without power. But something inside me keeps whispering that none of this is just a blackout. The sun didn't rise properly this morning. It came up behind thick dust clouds, turning the sky a rust color. I stood on the roof and watched it, and for a moment, the whole city looked like a photograph left too long in a darkroom. Overexposed, grainy, washed out. No birds, no traffic, not even dogs barking. Just a strange, low vibration in the air, the kind that makes your teeth feel loose. When the world is loud, you don't notice how much the silence weighs. But now, every sound feels like a warning. Every quiet moment feels like a held breath. I saw someone dragging a metal cart down the street earlier. It had water jugs, canned beans, even a small propane tank inside. He kept checking over his shoulder every few steps. When he passed under a broken traffic light, he stopped and whispered something like a prayer. I wanted to ask him where he was going, but he looked too scared to approach. People walk differently now. They keep their bodies tense, their eyes shifting from window to window, rooftop to rooftop, like something might leap out at them, even though the city looks empty. I guess I should tell you about the roof. Something happened up there last night. Something small, but it mattered. When I went up to check the antenna, I found something burned into the metal. A thin line, like someone ran a hot wire across it. But the metal was smooth before. I know because I checked it 3 times after the collapse. The burn wasn't there. Now it's cut almost an inch deep. No weather can do that. No falling debris. Someone, or something, touched that antenna. When I pressed my hand to the metal, it was warm, even though the air was freezing. That scared me more than anything else today. I've been thinking about leaving the city too. I thought about it when I saw that man with the cart. But every time I step outside, I feel like the city is holding its breath, waiting for something. And without this station, without this frequency, I don't know what I'd be out there. Just another shadow trying not to disappear. I also keep worrying that if I leave, people who scan through the dial looking for a voice will find nothing but static. And maybe that would be the final push toward giving up. So I stay. Even if this is pointless. Even if nobody is listening. Talking keeps the fear at arm's length. Talking keeps me human. There's something new happening near the river. The pale glow I mentioned earlier. It's getting brighter. Not bright enough to light up the sky, but bright enough to reflect off the water. And the shape is clearer now. It isn't round. It's jagged, like a crack in the air itself. Like a line of light drawn across the world. When the dust moves through it, the dust dissolves for a moment, and then reforms behind it. I've never seen anything like that. I don't think anyone has. Some people went close to it earlier. I watched from the roof. They didn't touch it. They just stood near it, holding their hands out like they were feeling for heat. One of them stepped too close, and the others yelled at him to stop. When he stepped back, he looked dazed. Not scared. Just empty. Like something inside him got quieter. I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I'm losing it, but the glow looks alive. Not moving, not breathing, but aware. Like it knows it's being watched. I don't want to go down this path, but a part of me wonders if that thing, whatever it is, was here before, buried, hidden, quiet, and now it's waking up into a world that doesn't know how to handle it. People always talk about disasters like storms or earthquakes or war, but nobody talks about the possibility of the world itself shifting, because something underneath it changes. Something we never knew existed. When the second pulse hit earlier, I thought I heard a voice, not a real voice. More like a pressure in my skull, a sound without sound. A feeling that pushed against my thoughts. It lasted only a second, and then it was gone. I told myself it was stress, or lack of sleep, or hunger, but a part of me doesn't believe that. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know what fear feels like. And whatever's happening underneath us, it's not done. I'm trying to stay grounded. I'm trying to stay the person I was before all of this. But the world outside this room feels like a different planet. And every time something new happens, I feel myself slipping a little more into something I don't recognize. But I'm still here. I'm still talking, and as long as this frequency stays alive, so will I. The generator just coughed, a sharp stutter. I tapped the casing and it settled again. I shouldn't be hitting it, but panic makes you act stupid sometimes. I'll need to check the fuel soon. I only have 2 cans left, maybe 3 hours of power if I'm careful. I should save some energy. But my voice feels like the only thing anchoring me to the ground. Earlier, I found a piece of paper under the control board, a maintenance receipt from last year. The old technician wrote a note on the back. It said, "If the world ever goes quiet, this room stays loud." It made me laugh for the first time in days. Not a real laugh, just a breath through my nose. But it felt good. It reminded me that people before us also felt fear in their own ways, and they still built things meant to last. I'm trying to believe I can last too. The lights flickered again. I hate when they do that. It makes my heart skip. Like the world is blinking. I should probably talk about the sky again. Something changed tonight. The clouds are lower than they should be, dragging across the tops of the buildings like they're brushing the city with their fingers. And every few minutes, there's a faint flash behind them. Not lightning. There's no thunder. Just a dull glow, like something huge is moving behind the clouds. The temperature keeps dropping too. My breath is visible inside the room now. I keep rubbing my hands together to stay warm. Maybe this building is losing insulation, or maybe the cold is coming from something else. I keep circling back to the same thought. The world isn't just shutting down. It's changing. And we're too small to understand how or why. I don't want to scare anyone listening, but you deserve honesty. The city isn't stable anymore. The ground isn't stable. The air feels thin, and the glow near the river is growing. But you're not alone. Not as long as this voice reaches you. Even if everything else breaks, this frequency is a lifeline. For me, and for you. I'll keep talking. I promise. I've been sitting here for a few minutes trying to steady my breathing. I didn't want to start talking again while my hands were still shaking, but I realized they probably won't stop anytime soon, so I might as well speak through it. Something happened outside just now. Something I've never seen in my life. Something I never thought I'd see anywhere on Earth. And I'm not sure what it means, but it's getting harder to pretend this is just a power failure or some natural disaster we don't understand yet. Whatever's happening feels older than any of that. Older than cities. Older than us. About 20 minutes ago, I heard a sound like metal bending. Slow, deep, almost like a groan. It came from the direction of the river. I thought maybe a building was collapsing, or maybe the water pipes underground were freezing and cracking. But then I heard voices, real voices, shouting in the distance. They were panicked, scattered, not calling for help, but warning each other to get away. I ran to the window and tried to see through the dust in the air. At first, I saw nothing but the usual shadows and broken lights. But then, the glow near the river, the pale line that's been sitting there like a wound in the world, flared brighter. Not white, not yellow. A kind of washed-out blue that hurt my eyes, even from blocks away. The people near it stumbled backward, shielding their faces. One of them fell to the ground and crawled away like he was trying to escape heat, but there was no fire. The light didn't spread outward. It stayed in that same thin shape. But something was different. It wasn't flickering anymore. It was steady, solid, like it had made up its mind about something. I wanted to run downstairs and get a closer look, but the fear pinned me in place. Not the kind of fear that makes you scream or cry. The kind that freezes your muscles and makes your brain go blank for a moment. The kind that whispers directly into your spine. My legs wouldn't move. My body knew something my mind wasn't ready to process. The glow pulsed, just once, and everything around it shuddered. I saw dust lift off the pavement, suspended for a second, like gravity forgot what it was supposed to do. Then it all dropped again. A couple of the people near the river turned and ran as fast as they could. One didn't. He stood there staring at it, slowly, like he was hypnotized. His hands dropped to his sides and he stepped forward again. The others screamed at him, but he didn't even react. He walked closer until he stood almost at the edge of the light. Then something happened that made me grab the wall to keep myself steady. The glow bent toward him. Not fast, not suddenly. Just a slight curve, like a breeze was pushing it. It leaned in his direction, and for a moment I thought he was about to disappear into it. But then, the generator behind me sputtered, and the lights flickered, and when I looked back out the window, the light had gone dim again, and the man was gone. I don't know how long I stood there staring at the empty space where he'd been. It could have been 30 seconds or 10 minutes. I kept expecting him to reappear, maybe running, maybe stumbling, maybe waving at the others. But he didn't. The glow just sat there, quiet again, like it hadn't done anything at all. The others eventually ran away, scattering into different streets. And now the river is quiet again. I don't know if the man died or went somewhere. somewhere we can't imagine, somewhere that glow connects to. I don't want to think about it, but that's all I can think about now. My hands are still shaking, not because of what I saw, but because of a new thought that crept in afterward. What if that glow isn't dangerous in the way we think? What if it's not attacking? What if it's responding? What if something we did made it wake up? Or worse, what if it was always waking up, and we just happened to be alive at the wrong time? I keep replaying things in my head, trying to find patterns. The strange pulses underground, the way electronics didn't just shut down but stayed dead, like they were drained instead of damaged. The birds flying wrong, the people collapsing without cause, the sky changing colors, the sudden freezing temperatures, and now this doorway, or fracture, or whatever it is. I don't know what to call it. But calling it a glow feels too simple, too harmless. It's not harmless. I think I need to talk about what happened earlier today in the station lobby, before the river incident. I didn't mention it before because it felt small, but maybe it's part of the same pattern. When I walked downstairs to check the front entrance, I found the glass door cracked. Not shattered, not broken, but cracked in a perfect spiral pattern, like someone pressed against it with a finger made of heat. The center of the spiral was warm, even though the rest of the building felt like a fridge. I touched the edges of the crack, and they crumbled under my fingertips, like the glass had turned to powder. There was no sign anyone had forced entry, no footprints, no tools. Just the spiral crack and the warmth fading from it. I cleaned the powder off my fingers and didn't think much of it until now. But now, I'm not so sure it's unrelated. Maybe it's not only the river. Maybe whatever is happening is spreading through touch points we haven't noticed yet. Another thing happened earlier that I should mention. I was going through the emergency supply closet to see how much water I had left, and I heard a faint tapping sound, not from the hallway or the roof, inside the closet. When I opened the door, something fell off the top shelf. A small radio, an old one, battery-powered, covered in dust. The batteries inside were swollen and cracked, but for a moment, just a moment, it turned on by itself. No static, no voice, just a single tone, like a warning alarm played underwater. Then it died again. The batteries leaked down the side of the casing and left a dark stain on the floor. I threw it away, but the tone is still echoing in my head. I can't tell if I really heard it, or if my mind is filling in the gaps. I know I sound like I'm falling apart, but I'm doing my best to stay rational, to hold on to the idea that there's still a scientific explanation behind this, something we just haven't uncovered yet. My friend Marcus always said the world is full of strange signals, and most of them pass through us without us ever knowing. He used to talk about how the earth hums at a frequency we can't hear, and how machines sometimes pick up interference from things buried so deep underground that humans never encounter them. Maybe he was right. Maybe the earth has been humming the same tune for millions of years, and something shifted just enough to make it audible. Speaking of Marcus, I don't know what happened to him. I keep thinking about the last time we spoke. He said the grid wasn't failing. It was being overwritten, like an invisible force was crawling through the wires. He didn't say that exactly, but the way he kept repeating that voltage wasn't behaving like voltage normally does. The way he said the surges weren't random but patterned makes me wonder if he saw something in the data he didn't have time to tell me. If he's still out there somewhere, I hope he's alive. I hope he found people. I hope he's not alone. It's easy to imagine everyone out there wandering like ghosts through the empty streets, but I know that's not true. People are still trying, still finding ways to live. I saw a group earlier building a fire inside a metal barrel, using broken chairs as fuel. They shared the heat with a couple of strangers who walked by. One of them offered me a piece of bread, but I didn't want to take more from them than they already had. Seeing them work together, quiet, scared, but united, felt like watching the last glowing embers of humanity refusing to die out. People can be cruel in disaster, but they can also be better than they ever were before. It's strange how that works. I should talk about the tremor earlier, too. I didn't think much of it at the time, but maybe it matters now. The floor moved for a split second, not like an earthquake, but like something under the building shifted position. A deep, slow roll. The walls creaked, and dust fell from the ceiling tiles. Then, everything stopped. If you'd blinked, you would have missed it. A few minutes later, the static on the monitor turned into faint lines, vertical, flickering, repeating. It reminded me of the heartbeat lines on old medical machines, but more erratic. Then they disappeared again. I can't tell if the equipment is trying to pick up a signal or if it's breaking down piece by piece. I keep checking the fuel gauge, but the needle barely moved since I last looked. Maybe the generator found a rhythm. Maybe it's giving me more time than I thought. Or maybe the needle is stuck. Hard to tell in this light. Someone passed by the station about an hour ago, dragging a rolling suitcase that was missing one wheel. You could hear the scraping before you saw him. He didn't look up when he walked by, just kept going, head down, shoulders hunched against the cold. I wanted to call out to him, but my voice caught in my throat. I still regret not saying something. People shouldn't walk alone in this silence. It makes your thoughts too loud. I'm starting to feel lightheaded. Maybe it's the lack of sleep. Maybe it's the cold. Or maybe it's the fact that the air feels thinner tonight, like breathing isn't as easy as it used to be. I keep inhaling deeply to check if it's just in my head, but every breath feels slightly shallow. I hope that's not happening everywhere. I don't know what people would do if the air started to change. There's something else I haven't talked about yet, because I didn't want to scare anyone, but I think it's important. Last night, just before I fell asleep, I heard something crawling on the roof. Not heavy, not fast, slow and deliberate, like it was feeling its way across the surface. I tried to tell myself it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or a stray dog, but no animal moves that slowly unless it's hunting or lost. And the sound stopped right above the spot where the antenna is bolted into the metal frame of the roof. This morning, when I checked the antenna again, the warm mark was still there. Warmer than the rest of the metal, even though it was freezing outside. Something touched it again. Maybe whatever crawled on the roof wasn't an animal. Maybe it wasn't human either. Maybe it was drawn to the signal. Or maybe it was drawn to the glow from the river and passed over this building by accident. I don't know. Every possibility scares me in a different way. I wish I had someone here to talk to, someone who could listen and tell me I'm not imagining things. But maybe that's why I keep talking into this mic, because I need to hear my own voice to remember I'm still real. The city feels like it's shrinking, not physically, but emotionally. Like the edges of it are folding inward as more streets go dark and more buildings turn cold and hollow. Walking through it feels like walking inside a memory that's dissolving, and the sky above it doesn't feel like the same sky anymore. It feels thicker, like a lid pressed down over us. I haven't heard birds since yesterday. Even the crows that used to circle the rooftops have disappeared. Someone told me the animals fled days before the collapse. Maybe they felt something coming. Animals always sense danger before humans do. I remember when I was young, my father used to take me camping. One night, we heard a strange rumbling underground. He told me it was just the earth moving, doing what it's always done. But I felt scared anyway. That same fear is back now. Except this time, the earth isn't just moving, it's speaking. And the world is listening whether we want to or not. The lights flickered again just now. A long flicker this time. The kind that makes you hold your breath until the glow returns. When the lights go out for good, I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll keep talking in the dark. Maybe I'll sit here quietly until something forces me to move. I don't want to think about it yet. I need to stay focused. I need to stay awake. I need to keep going, as long as the generator lets me. If anyone can hear this, keep moving carefully. Keep watching the sky. Keep avoiding the river. And whatever you do, don't go near the pale light. Not now. Not after what I saw tonight. I'll stay here. I'll keep the frequency alive. And I'll talk again soon. I'm not giving up. Not when things are changing this fast. Not when the world feels like it's holding on to its last threads of warmth and memory. As long as this voice reaches someone, even one person out there, I'm still connected to something bigger than fear. I don't know how long I drifted off. It couldn't have been more than a few minutes, but even those few minutes felt dangerous. I woke up with my forehead resting against the microphone, and for a moment, I didn't know where I was. I thought the hum I heard was the old station heater, the one that used to rattle whenever winter rolled in. But when I opened my eyes, the room was dim, and the only sound was the generator in the next room struggling to keep this place alive. Everything felt wrong, like I'd fallen asleep inside someone else's memories. My throat is dry. I haven't had water in a while. I took one sip earlier to conserve what I have left, but the air feels colder, and when the temperature drops like this, your body loses moisture faster. I should drink more, but something in me keeps saying to wait, to stretch every drop. I don't know when I'll be able to find water again if the pipes stay dry. When I stepped outside a little while ago to check the fuel levels, I saw something I wish I could forget. The sky wasn't fully dark yet, just that deep blue before night takes over. And above the river, the clouds were circling. Slow, careful circles. I've lived in this city my entire life, and I've never seen clouds behave like that. They weren't spinning fast enough to be a storm. They were moving like the glow below them was pulling them in, like gravity worked differently in that one patch of sky. I know how strange this sounds. I know I probably sound like someone losing his grip. But I can't lie about what I saw. Not anymore. The glow is changing shape little by little. It's no longer just a straight line or a crack of light. It bends at the ends now, curling upward like the edges of torn paper. The air near it ripples even when the wind is still, and the ground beneath it looks warped, like the concrete is softer than before. It's like the world is being pulled toward that thing, stretched thin around the edges. When I was out there checking the generator, I heard it again. The humming. Not the deep vibration from the first days. This one was higher, almost like singing. A quiet, steady tone that didn't fit with any machine I've ever heard. It made my chest feel tight. Not painful, just heavy, like someone was pressing gently against my ribs from the inside. I followed the sound for a few steps before snapping out of it. I don't know how to explain this part without sounding out of my mind, but I felt like it was calling me, not with words, not with anything human, just pulling me toward the river, pulling me toward the glow. I forced myself to turn back, forced my eyes away from it, forced my feet to move toward the station again. Every instinct in my body felt confused. Some part of me wanted to run, another wanted to go closer, and another felt frozen in place. That kind of conflict isn't natural, not for something you don't understand. When I got back inside, my heartbeat felt wrong, too slow, too soft, like it was syncing with something. The feeling passed, but not completely. I still feel out of rhythm somehow, offbeat in my own skin. I needed to talk, to speak into this mic, because the silence inside my skull was growing louder than anything outside. When I was younger, I used to think fear was a sudden thing. A spike in your chest, a fast heartbeat, shaking hands. But that's not the worst kind. The worst kind creeps in slowly, tightening around you like a cold rope. It's steady, patient, and before you know it, it's woven into your breath. That's the fear I feel now, not of dying, not of the darkness, but of the unknown moving beneath us, reshaping everything we thought was permanent. Something else happened while I was outside, something small but important. I found footprints in the dirt near the generator, not boot prints, not sneakers, bare feet, small ones, maybe a teenager, maybe younger. Whoever it was, they stood near the generator, turned toward the building, and then ran off toward the alley. I don't know how a kid could have gotten this far alone. I don't know if they were scared of me, or if they were following the sound of the generator for warmth. But the footprints were fresh, and the idea of someone that young wandering through these empty streets, it broke something inside me. I wanted to follow them, but the darkness was coming in fast, and I couldn't leave the generator unattended. I stood there staring at the prints until they felt like they were staring back at me, like they were asking why I didn't try harder to find the person who made them. I still feel guilty. Maybe I should have gone after them. Maybe they needed help. Maybe they were looking for someone, anyone to talk to. The city is too big now, too empty. You can yell and the sound barely travels. It gets swallowed by the silence. I don't know if that kid is still out there. I hope they found shelter. I hope someone else cared enough to open a door. But the thought of them walking alone under that twisted sky makes my chest hurt. The air inside the station feels colder now. The generator is warm, but the room itself is losing heat. I keep rubbing my arms, but it doesn't help much. The cold feels deeper than normal cold, like it's not just temperature, but something draining warmth out of the space. I keep thinking back to that man yesterday, the one who disappeared into the glow. I keep replaying the moment the light curved toward him. It was subtle, but it was deliberate, like it sensed him, like it chose him. And if it can choose, then it's aware. That thought is the one that's been sitting heavy in my mind. Not that the glow is dangerous, not that it destroys, but that it knows. If something under the earth has awakened, if it's been releasing pulses and signals and changing the fabric of this city, then maybe the glow is a surface symptom of something far larger, something stretching its limbs after a long sleep. My father once told me that humans like to believe they're the main characters of the world, that everything was built around us, for us, because of us. But the truth is, we barely own anything. Not the land, not the air, not the oceans. We just rent the space for a few years and hope nothing older or bigger notices us. I didn't understand what he meant then. Now I think I do. Let me try to explain something else that happened today, something I've been avoiding. Earlier, while I was rewiring a loose cable behind the console, I heard a faint tapping sound from the far corner of the room. It wasn't rhythmic, it wasn't steady, just soft taps, spread out in uneven beats. At first I thought it was the building settling, but when I paused and held my breath, the tapping paused too. When I started moving again, it resumed, not louder, just following. I didn't go look. I know that sounds weak, but everything in me said not to move closer. Eventually, the sound stopped, but the silence it left behind felt like something watching. I know that sounds strange, but I can't deny how it made me feel. Like the room wasn't just empty, but waiting. I think everything around us is waiting now, waiting for the next pulse, waiting for the next change, waiting for whatever comes after a world loses its power, its warmth, its order, and maybe even its place in the chain of things that live here. People used to think the end of the world would be loud, explosions, war, fire. But the real end, or whatever this is, feels quiet, slow, like drifting snow covering everything before anyone notices. A few hours ago, I saw something else unusual. A small group of people was gathered around a burning drum on the corner of 5th and Howell. They looked cold, exhausted, like they hadn't slept in days. But they weren't talking. They were staring at the sky. I followed their gaze, and that's when I saw it. Something falling. Not like a shooting star. Not fast. Not bright. Something drifting downward in a zigzag motion. When it passed behind a cloud, the cloud brightened for a moment, like whatever it was had a light of its own. But when it got lower, closer to the tops of the buildings, it flickered twice and vanished. The group didn't move. They just kept staring. One of them whispered something I couldn't hear, and the others slowly backed away from the fire. They didn't run. They didn't scream. They just walked off in different directions, like they no longer knew where they belonged. I wish I knew what fell from that sky. I wish I could pretend it was a satellite burning up, or a drone crashing, or some leftover piece of aircraft debris. But it didn't move like anything mechanical. It moved like it was alive and cautious. I don't want to say this, but I feel like the sky itself is changing. The clouds, the colors, the strange flickers. None of it matches anything natural. And the temperature doesn't match either. One moment it's freezing. The next moment there's a warm draft blowing through the stairwell, even though the air outside could freeze metal. I feel like the atmosphere is reacting to something, or adjusting to something. The radio console in front of me keeps clicking softly. It's not the usual static. It's more rhythmic. Like something is trying to come through but can't find the right frequency. Every time it clicks, the hairs on my arms rise. I know it's just electricity scraping along dying circuits, but it still feels intentional somehow. I took a break earlier to close my eyes for a moment, and when I did, I heard a faint whisper in the back of my mind. Not words, not thoughts, more like a distant echo. I opened my eyes immediately. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe exhaustion is starting to bend my senses. But the whisper still felt real. This kind of fear of the unseen, makes your world shrink to the size of your breathing. You start noticing every flicker, every draft, every distant creak, and you start asking questions you never asked before. Like what lies beneath us? What lives in silence? What listens when the world goes quiet? I know one thing for sure. We are not alone right now. not in the way humanity usually imagines company. Whatever is happening to this city, to this sky, to this river, it's not random. It's not chaotic. It's purposeful in a way that makes my heart feel small. But I'm still here. I'm still talking. I'm still human. Even if the world around me is shifting into something unrecognizable. I'm holding on to hope, even if hope feels like a fragile thing tonight. Because hope is still warmer than fear. And as long as someone out there might be listening, I want to give them that warmth. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't even know what the next hour will bring. But I'll keep broadcasting. I'll keep this voice alive for as long as the generator breathes. If the world is ending, then let it end with someone still speaking into the dark. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere yet. I'm back on the mic again. I don't know how much power I have left. The generator is giving off this strange, deeper thrum, almost like it's working against something instead of with it. I put my hand on the casing and felt it shaking harder than before, and I could tell immediately it wasn't just the machine wearing down. It felt like the ground beneath it was vibrating too, like both of them were trying to hold steady while something pushed from underneath. I stepped back, because for a second I thought the floor might split. Everything feels like it's reaching some kind of breaking point. The air has that same heaviness you feel right before a storm, except the sky is too still for that. No wind, no movement, just that orange-gray ceiling pressing down over the city, hiding the stars, hiding everything else I used to trust when the world went dark at night. There's no moonlight, no streetlights, nothing to help your eyes adjust. The darkness doesn't feel natural anymore. It feels thick, like it has weight. A few minutes ago, I heard something outside, something big. Not footsteps, not metal. More like the sound of hundreds of pebbles sliding across pavement all at once. It lasted maybe 3 seconds, then stopped like it had never been there. I froze in place when I heard it because it didn't sound like anything alive or anything mechanical. It sounded like movement without direction. Movement just for the sake of happening. I didn't dare go look. I'm not sure I would recognize what I saw if I did. I keep thinking about that kid whose footprints I found earlier. I keep imagining them out there in this silence, trying to make sense of things nobody their age should have to face. I tried calling out from the doorway once, barely raised my voice, but the echo that followed scared me. It sounded wrong, too sharp, too quick to die, like the air swallowed it the second it came out. Sound shouldn't disappear that fast. Something is changing in this city. And it's not just people losing power, not just buildings going dark. It feels deeper, like the ground is thinning, like the space we stand on is stretching too much and starting to tear. I didn't want to believe that before, but after what I saw an hour ago, I don't know how to deny it anymore. The glow by the river isn't alone now. I don't know when it happened, maybe while I was resting my eyes, but when I checked the window again, I saw a second light farther down the water. Fainter, smaller, but the same pale shape, the same bending edges. At first I thought it was a reflection, but the angles were wrong. The glow wasn't mirroring anything. It was answering something, like a far-off signal finally receiving a reply. And the clouds above each light were turning in opposite directions, like two slow whirlpools forming in the sky. The air between them looked twisted, as if the space itself was thinning. I don't know how much more the city can handle before something gives way. I thought about going to the roof again to see the whole river, to see if more lights were forming. But the last time I went up there, I felt something standing behind me. I turned around fast, but nothing was there, or at least nothing I could see. The cold on the back of my neck felt like a breath, though. A long, slow breath. And when I reached the stairwell again, I heard that soft tapping behind me. The one that stops when I stop. That was enough to keep me inside tonight. People outside have started moving differently. I watched a small group pass the corner earlier, maybe 5 or 6 of them, wrapped in blankets and pushing a cart full of scrap wood. They didn't look scared the way people did in the first days. They looked empty, like they were walking because standing still hurt more. One of them kept looking at the sky, not like he was checking the weather, but like he expected something to step through the clouds at any moment. I can't blame him. The lights by the river, the shifting air, the strange pulses. All of it feels like the earth is waiting for something else to arrive. The temperature keeps dropping. My breath fogs up the mic. My fingers feel stiff, even though I'm sitting right next to the only working equipment in this place. I keep rubbing my arms to stay awake, but the cold is inside my bones now. It's not the kind of cold a coat fixes. It feels like the world is draining warmth instead of losing it. I haven't eaten in a while. I'm rationing what I have left, but even the hunger feels different. Not sharp, not painful, just quiet. Like my body is slowly shutting down anything that isn't necessary for survival. Maybe it's a natural response, or maybe the air itself is making everything slower. I need to tell you what happened when I checked the front entrance again. I saw new cracks in the glass, not like the spiral before. These were thin, branching lines spreading from the frame outward, like frost on a window pane. Except it wasn't frost. The glass was warm to the touch. Too warm. Almost hot. I pulled my hand back fast because it didn't make sense. Heat shouldn't spread through broken glass like that. But the warmth stayed on my skin for minutes after, like the building itself had touched me. I don't know how to explain that without sounding like I've lost my mind, but nothing about this place makes sense anymore. Something else started happening inside the station too. The lights dim every time I mention the glow. It's subtle, but it keeps happening. I thought it was just coincidence until it flickered 3 times in a row when I talked about the second light. Like the room didn't want me speaking about it. Like something in the air shifted every time I gave words to the things outside. I don't want to believe the building is reacting to my voice, but this place hasn't followed normal rules in days, and I'm running out of explanations. I can feel the city changing under me, the way the floor vibrates softly every few minutes, the way the dust in the air moves sideways instead of falling straight down. Something underneath the streets is shifting, something heavy, something living, and the lights by the river feel like cracks where that thing is pushing upward. I don't think the world is ending. Not completely. I think it's changing into something else. Something that doesn't need us. Something that doesn't even notice us. But I'm still here. I'm still talking. And there's one thing I haven't said yet. Something I didn't want to admit until now. When I stepped outside earlier, before the sky started circling again, I felt a faint vibration in my chest. At first I thought it was my heartbeat acting strange again, but it wasn't. It was coming from the ground, and the rhythm matched mine, perfectly, beat for beat, like the earth was sinking to me, or I was sinking to it. I backed away fast, and the vibration faded, but the memory hasn't faded. Something is aligning. I don't know if it's natural or intentional or something we woke up by accident. But every pulse, every glow, every piece of twisted sky feels like part of a larger pattern. A pattern we can't see yet. I don't know what's waiting on the other side of that pattern, but I think we're close to finding out. The generator just coughed again. A deeper, sharper sound this time. I don't know how much longer I have before everything goes dark for good. So I need to decide what to do. Stay here. Keep the mic alive. Or leave the station before the next pulse hits. I don't know the right answer yet, but I think I'll have to choose soon. I'm not ready, but the world isn't giving me time to be ready. I'll talk again in the next part. If the lights hold, if the generator holds. I don't know how long I have left, but I need to speak while I still can. The generator is making a new sound now, a slow grinding like gears slipping against each other. I tightened every bolt I could reach, but the vibration isn't coming from the machine anymore. It's coming from the floor underneath it. The whole building feels like it's breathing. Every few seconds, the walls expand just a little, then pull back in like the air pressure is shifting inside the concrete itself. I've never felt anything like this. The structure isn't falling apart. It's reacting to something deeper. I stepped outside again a few minutes ago, even though every instinct told me not to. The cold hit me first, but it wasn't the sharp, biting cold from before. It was still, heavy, like the air was holding its breath. When I looked toward the river, I saw something that made my legs lock in place. The two glows had merged. Not fully, but the light between them was connected now, stretched like a thin ribbon of pale blue drifting over the water. And the space under it, if you can even call it space, looked wrong. The water wasn't reflecting the light. It was absorbing it. Every ripple sank into that glow like it was being swallowed. The clouds above the river had stopped turning. They were completely still. But they weren't drifting anymore either. They just hovered, hanging in the air like huge gray stones suspended above the city. And the center of each cloud had a hollowed-out shape, like something had pressed up against the bottom of the sky from underneath. I don't think these lights are random. I don't think they're accidents or side effects or something scientific that we simply don't understand. I think they're openings. Points where something beneath us is pushing against the surface. I stood there watching, unable to move, because the air around me felt thick, like it was pushing gently against my body, like it wanted me to step closer. My heartbeat slowed again, sinking to something in the ground. I put my hand on the brick wall beside me just to steady myself, and even the wall felt warm. The entire city is warming in patches, freezing in others. It's like the temperature is being carved into shapes. I walked a few steps toward the sidewalk, not because I wanted to, but because it felt like the air nudged me forward. Not forcefully, just guiding. When I realized what was happening, I forced myself to step back. My legs shook with the effort. Fighting the air shouldn't be hard, but it was. Before I came back inside, I saw something moving near the far end of the river. Not a person, not an animal, a shape, tall, thin, almost like a shadow standing upright. It didn't walk, it didn't shift, it just stood there facing the glow. The light bent slightly toward it. And that's when I knew. Whatever's happening is no longer something waking up beneath us. It's something coming through. I ran back inside and locked the door, even though a lock feels meaningless now. Walls feel meaningless. Distance feels meaningless. It all feels fragile. Like the world is thinning and anything could pass through it. I'm sitting here now with the mic close to my mouth because the cold is creeping in again and my voice keeps shaking. I keep thinking about everyone who used to fill this city. The noise, the crowds, the life. None of us ever imagined that silence could be louder than all of that combined. But this kind of silence is crushing. It presses against your thoughts like a weight. I haven't talked about the voices yet. Not real voices. I haven't heard anyone speak in hours. But something inside the silence feels like it's forming words. Every time the building creaks, every time the generator hums, every time the glow brightens, there's a shape in the sound. Not sentences, not anything human, but something close enough that your brain tries to fill in meaning. I keep hearing something like "come closer." Not with sound, with pressure, with intention. And I don't know if it's meant for me or for everyone left in this city. I'm trying to stay calm, but my hands won't warm up, no matter how tightly I hold them together. My breath is white again, but the air inside the room is shifting between warm and cold every few minutes. I feel waves of heat rolling through the building, followed by waves of cold. Like the city is pulsing with something alive. I don't know what's causing the pulses, but I think another one is coming soon. The radio console keeps flickering with faint lines again. Not random ones this time. They form shapes. The lines rise and fall like a heartbeat, then flatten, then pulse again. I can't tell if it's a failing machine, or if it's picking up something from outside. Every pulse makes the lights dim and the floor vibrate. I think the world is sinking to something, or something is sinking to the world. I don't know which option scares me more. A few minutes ago, I heard footsteps inside the hallway. Slow ones, bare feet again. I called out softly. No reply. The steps stopped just outside the studio door. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I stared at the bottom gap of the door, waiting to see a shadow move past it, but nothing came. Then the cold near the door faded, replaced by warmth. Then the warmth faded again. I don't think it was the kid this time. I don't think anything with a heartbeat was standing there. The glow outside the window is brighter now. Even from here, I can see the way it bends. It's almost shaped like a doorway. The air ripples around it in waves, and every few seconds the light shudders, like something is pressing against it from the other side, trying to widen the opening. I don't know how much longer the barrier will hold. I keep thinking about my father's words, the ones I didn't understand until now. The earth isn't ours. We just borrow space from whatever came before us. I used to think he meant nature, weather, mountains, time. But maybe he meant something deeper, something older, something that's been waiting for the right moment to surface again. Maybe all of this, the pulses, the silence, the lights, isn't destruction. Maybe it's reclamation. I'm not scared of dying. Not anymore. The fear I feel now is different. It's the fear of not understanding what comes next. The fear of becoming something unfamiliar. The fear of stepping into a world that no longer recognizes me. The generator is failing. The hum is slowing. The lights are flickering longer each time. I don't think I'll be able to keep talking much longer. The glow outside is so bright now that I can see my own shadow trembling on the wall behind me. I'm not going to run. There's nowhere left to run to, and something inside me knows that hiding won't make a difference anymore. So, I'm going to stay here, with this microphone, until the light or the dark takes me. If anyone hears this, I want you to remember something. Not my voice. Not this frequency. not the city we lost. Remember that even at the edge of the unknown, even when the world changes into something unrecognizable, there is still a choice inside us. The choice to face it with fear or with understanding. The choice to let go or to hold on. I choose to hold on. Even now. Even as the glow widens. Even as the sky bends. Even as the ground trembles beneath me. I choose to speak. This is James Foster. 104.7 FM. Still here. Still watching the horizon break open. Still human. Until the world decides otherwise. If this is the end, you're not alone. Not while I'm still breathing.